Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the 44th Annual Hawaii International Film Festival presented by Halekulani and today's discussion with the filmmakers from YINTAH as part of our Film for Thought series in partnership with the Hawaii Council for the Humanities. This series is designed to combine thought-provoking film with scholar-led discussions and writings. So today we are very excited to have here the directors of YINTAH, Jennifer Wickham, Brenda Michell, and Michael Toledano. And our conversation today will be moderated by scholar Malia Osorio. So thank you all so much for joining us today and for sharing your time and knowledge with us. But yes, we're very excited to be having Malia moderating today's conversation. But just before we get started, I wanted to again extend a special mahalo to the Hawaii Council for the Humanities, for which without this program would not be possible. And one more thing before we get started, I want to introduce Liz Soto from the Hawaii Council for the Humanities to talk a little bit about this year's theme for the Film for Thought program.
Mahalo, Melina, and aloha mai kako. I am Liz Soto. I'm the Director of Literary Conversation and Conversation Programs at the Hawaii Council for the Humanities, which for more than 50 years has encouraged and supported programming that aims to help us better understand the intricate weaving of cultures, stories, histories, and humans that is Hawaii. 2024 is the 14th year of Film for Thought, a collaborative program between the Hawaii Council for the Humanities and the Hawaii International Film Festival. Every festival, a select group of films are chosen to be featured as part of this series, which invites humanities scholars to respond to these films through written essays and discussions with filmmakers. This year, our theme is about connections to land. In Hawaii, particularly for Kanaka Oiwi, the land lives. Indeed, our state motto, which originated with the Hawaiian kingdom, asserts, "Ua Mauka'ea o Ka'aina i Kapono." The most frequently quoted English interpretation being, "The life of the land is preserved in righteousness." Embedded in this phrase is the idea that the land, Ka'aina, is living and has a relationship with us that merits our care. The four Film for Thought films this year focus on these connections to land and the connections we have with each other. YINTAH, The Queen's Flowers, Standing Above the Clouds, and Shisam ask us to consider the differences between consumption and nourishment. The essays written by our Film for Thought scholars invite us to really sit with these films, to stay with the difficult stories they hold, to consider how we might reconcile with the terrible injustices of the past that continue to reverberate through our present. Mahalo nui to this year's Film for Thought scholars Malia Osorio, Makanakushi, and R. Shizuko Hayashi Simpliciano. Their deep-rooted work requests that we reflect on what it means to see the earth in all its complex splendor as a part of us, and by extension to truly recognize the myriad of ways we are all connected to each other. Today's film, YINTAH, is absolutely remarkable and should be seen by as many people as possible because of the stories that it really sits with. Malia Osorio is our scholar today, and she is Manawahine personified. She's a brilliant artist, scholar, mama, all the things. So we invite you to watch these films, read these reflections, join our Film for Thought discussion events, and talk story about them with community. Mahalo nui.
Hello, my kako, Ovano o Malia Osorio. My name is Malia Osorio. I want to thank both Melina and Liz for those introductions, and also to the team of YINTAH. I'm really, really excited to be here today with them and be in conversation with them. I think it's actually funny that I was introduced as a scholar because I don't identify as one. I identify mostly with being an artist, a mother, and also an aloha aina. I was at Standing Rock for many months from August until December. I was arrested there. I was a part of Protect Mauna Kea. I had the immense um, honored to visit Palestine and was also called up to stand with the Stop Line 3 pipeline in Minnesota. So my work as a water protector really, really spoke to me while watching this film. And I actually want to start off with that, to Michael specifically, and ask how did you first enter into this stance, and at where in the stance did you enter? At what stage of the stance was it in when you entered?
Well, I came out to Wet'suwet'en territory for the first time in 2014, and I came as a reporter. I was working for Vice magazine, and they offered to send me anywhere on the continent that was interesting to me, and I said I want to go to Wet'suwet'en territory because there was a stance being made against pipelines that already had a reputation as being a really hard and really powerful stance. And I fell in love with the territory, and I got, you know, I made a commitment that I would come back if the police were coming to the territory, to Frida Houston, one of the land defenders who is featured in YINTAH. And it turned out that every year that meant that I was going back to the territory and spending months there in anticipation of a police response to the stand for sovereignty that was being made. And so that's how I came to be involved. And in 2018, I moved to the territory full time to document this history and to lend my support.
That's really beautiful. We had a lot of Vice people at Standing Rock too, and I'm smiling because although, as you all know, the stance is traumatic, and we hold so much of that trauma still today, there was also so many moments of joy and laughter. And I think as Indigenous, we do have that ability to find those moments of laughter and make light of certain things when necessary. And I want to ask Brenda and Jennifer, to either of you or both of you, if you have thoughts on this. When you first met Michael as a visitor, as a non-native coming into your territory, and to stand with you folks, what were your thoughts? And was it hard to accept or trust what he was looking to do with you folks and for you folks?
You can go first, Brenda.
Sorry, I just had to move away. My family's still having their breakfast, lunch. I can't even remember when I first met Michael, but he'd been out there with Frida and them prior to me starting to come around, but I found it easy to connect with him. And I was really, I guess, happy that he was interested in being a part of that and following the story. And he was genuine, so yeah. And it felt good. Because usually, if somebody's not, you can feel it, or at least I can. If somebody's not there to be a part of, and it felt like he was there for the long haul, and he kept coming back, so that said a lot about him and his interest, and yeah. So I think we welcomed him, and I'm sure he felt welcomed.
He kept coming back, so I think so.
Yeah. Kind of grew on us.
That's sweet. Jennifer, did you have anything else you'd like to add to that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I also don't remember like the exact first time I ever met Michael, but I do think that something that stood out was his hair. Because so
Did it
often,
look just like this?
yes, so often it's very hard to get to see. It's very rare to see Michael without a camera, and so the camera would be like this, right? And you would just see this hair and a camera.
I love it.
And Michael, we started working together very closely. Before and still currently, I'm the media coordinator for Get 'em Done Checkpoint for our reoccupation site. And yeah, Michael was indispensable. My sister deemed me unarrestable. So I was never able to be out there when all the action was happening. I was in my home, in town, you know, fielding phone calls from journalists and all the things. And it provided a lot of comfort to me that Michael was out there helping to keep my sister safe. My sister's Slato. She's my baby sister. And so, yeah, I knew that there were eyes on her at all times, and that Michael was there. And, you know, it was probably, you know, in moving into the second raid that I realized like how much Michael meant to me. And, you know, then I was worried about one more person being out there and facing police. And we really like to give Michael a hard time. But that's, you know, our way, and because we love him so much. He's my best friend for a limited time only, and that's a story for some other time maybe. I don't want to take
Oh my God, I love that.
Michael just says forever is a really long time. So
he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
But I will love Michael forever. So yeah, I think he was just always really committed, and supportive, and yeah, I felt a lot. I felt a lot better knowing that he was out there with my sister, my family, and friends, and you know,
I love that.
That's been such a huge part of this movement. I think is really providing, like, having our videographers out on the YINTAH, providing like another layer of safety. And you know, we've seen during the trial that's ongoing from Coyote Camp, a lot of testimony that we heard from the police is, oh, well, we would have done this, but we didn't because of optics. And so we know that there would have been a lot more violence brought on our people if there weren't cameras there, because they knew that we would be releasing that footage and putting it out for the world to see what was going on.
Right. It's an interesting time to be alive, right? Being a part of these stances, and even at Standing Rock, having our phones to live stream, we definitely felt that that was keeping us safe for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I really love that you started off saying there's this one image of him that is just full of love in your mind. It's his camera, but his hair is just right there. I love that.
You know, I always tried to fix his hair too, and Michael wouldn't let me.
He's like, I don't have time to fix that hair. That's awesome.
Oh,
but Brenda, what what you said about him just always coming back, that's so true, right? Like, I think as indigenous, we often get so many visitors who are so interested in our culture, our people, our songs, and now our movements, that it sometimes makes you feel maybe a little bit more protective of everything. But when you see those people continually coming back and coming back in a good way, um, you do see that they are there for genuine things. And I'm really glad that you folks met each other, because Yinta is so beautifully told. As somebody who deeply, deeply understands what being on the front line means, I could not have watched a better film that really encapsulates what it feels like, what it sounds like. This one scene where Slato is in this structure, like a tiny house, and the RMCP or police, I'm not sure who, or private security intercepts the comms, and they play that creepy child's music. We had that at
Mhm.
Standing Rock as well, and they would come
Mhm.
and they would say our go names, but then they'd say your real name after that, and like just getting chills. I'm so glad that you folks captured that and included that, because I think a lot of people don't actually understand the different levels of terror that we experience on the front lines. So I think you guys just really, you did such a beautiful job at capturing those moments and stitching all of them together. I want to talk a little bit about, in this interview you had with POV Magazine, Michael, you described this approach as like more of a horizontal production instead of a top down. And this question is really for all of you, because I'm sure you all have different pieces to add. But was this the first time that you all experienced this more horizontal approach to production? And if so, what were the challenges that you faced with it?
Well, I'll just speak a little bit about it. The film, you know, it was Brenda's daughter Carla who made an intervention, because there were all of these non-Indigenous filmmakers, myself included, who had been documenting this history for a long time. And you know, it's a simple intervention but very powerful, which is that, you know, if our history is going to be told, we should be the ones telling it. We should be the ones who have authority over it. I think about this different ways in terms of, you know, Wet'suwet'en laws, Wet'suwet'en decisions on the territory being criminalized throughout the story, throughout the history of what we documented in the film. And so we figured out a way to uphold Wet'suwet'en laws and Wet'suwet'en decision makings in our filmmaking process. Um, and essentially, you know, uh, Brenda and Jen can speak much more about it, but Wet'suwet'en make decisions by consensus collectively. Um, it's not, you know, just one person makes a decision and decides. So, you know, we're all directors on this film, uh, because power couldn't be concentrated in just one person. We had to come to a consensus about the film and how this history would be depicted. But we also went to all the decision makers in the community, the traditional decision makers, and got their input, and really were able to build the film around feedback and input and direction from more than 3 dozen people who are active in the governance in the community.
Mm,
Um, and so, yeah, the approach was kind of different from like the typical top-down approach of, you know, one artist's vision. It it was really from the grassroots. It was, what are the values of the community? How do people collectively experience this history, and how do they want to show it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, this is my first project ever. So I don't have any point of reference for like how things are normally done. And so I think, participating in our Wet'suwet'en governance and following an Akno 10, which is our laws, made perfect sense. And, one of our strongest laws translates to, you don't stir another clan soup. And
I
so
love it.
It was really
No
important.
big spoons.
And so it was really important to have, consultations with each of the house groups that were represented. And, that happened all throughout production. So from like the string out to rough cut, fine cut, and picture lock. And then the final film was shown to representatives from all 5 clans of the nation. And yeah, I think the challenging part of that, which I didn't feel so much, but I think probably our funders did,
right.
Is that it was a longer process, right?
Yeah.
To get approval and the consensus, like all throughout the production. It was fine for me.
Sure.
But I think, yeah, deadlines were certainly pushed, and not having a background in filmmaking, I'm a trained English teacher. I teach high school students. It was really interesting and kind of, I think a blessing that I didn't have any of the like status quo or like this is like a routine whatever kind of form, and so was able to like give some kind of pushback to how things are like usually done, with contracts and whatever was coming up. I'm like, well, we should do this, and folks are like, that's
Yeah.
normally done, and I'm like, oh well.
That's so important, though. The way that you guys included everyone in the discussion, I think, is so important as Indigenous storytelling takes off really in the bigger industry. And we're seeing it more with, the addition of shows like Res Dogs. I think what you guys are doing allows these funders to get that experience of, okay, this is what it's going to be like working with Indigenous. And just because it takes a little bit longer does not mean that the product is going to be less than. And you guys absolutely showed that you are able to work collectively and have a horizontal approach and still create a really, really beautiful, well thought out produced film. So e mai ka'i kako, like that's mahalo as a fellow Indigenous, for that work, because I'm sure you still have headaches from it. There's just one other question that I'd like to ask, and I think this, with everything that's going on in the world right now, I really sat with this question this morning in preparation for this interview. How has this experience, being on the front lines, being a part of this stance wherever you are, and then creating this film, how has it changed your perspective on the world?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I have like after witnessing Canada break all of its own laws and seeing the violence and the extent of violence that Canada is willing to go to um, deploy, unlimited resources against unarmed people, to use disproportionate force to criminalize people, to harass people. Um, the role of the private security and all that. Like, I have on some level less faith in people. You see a lot of
Yeah.
people who are colonizing Wet'suwet'en territory smiling in the film and experiencing, if not joy and pleasure, then certainly ambivalence to their role in this history as colonizers. But the flip side of that is that I also have, I'm also, you know, always blown away and inspired by the courage and power of the Wet'suwet'en and the resilience of the Wet'suwet'en. um, Frida and Slato, like Hawthcat and Slato, are both such incredible and powerful leaders in you know in showing us what it takes to resist and to stand your ground for such a extended period of time and against such brutal uh, and awful violence, not just the overt violence that you see in the film, but the kind of daily grind of having the police come on the territory and stop you and harass you. um and yeah, I don't know, I'm forever moved by the what I would encourage. People are very powerful when they stand their ground. And so yeah.
Forever evolving. Yeah, that thought.
I found it very difficult to be there and have the RCMP there constantly every day, and choppers flying over your space, and waiting to see what's going to happen next. And I don't know, it just felt really, how would you put it? For them to, it was like normal for them. It seemed like it didn't matter that they were destroying our land and harassing us. Like, my auntie was out there too, and she's elderly, and like they didn't seem to care how they treated us. And it was tough to do that every day. So yeah, in this day and age too, you'd think people would see something wrong with that picture when they're doing that too. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
mind-boggling.
it is.
I think it's, I don't know, I've joked about it before. I'm like, the Wet'suwet'en didn't like to be the first to do anything. I did, and looking back on the film, I think that one of the things that was really important to us was to really showcase our governance, and everything that we've done, and all of the historic and groundbreaking things like the Delgamuukw Stay Away court case, from the decision in 1997 from the Supreme Court of so-called Canada. And it's like, I have so much respect for all of our ancestors and all of the people today that are upholding our Anaknoatan with such conviction. You know, like I met Frida Howelfgut in 2012. That's when I met with Zinqua, our river, and absolutely fell in love and started writing her love poems. And like, I think, you know, as a storyteller, it brings me a lot of hope. And I say that I joke about these things, but like I joked at the beginning that we're going to be on Netflix and we're going to win an Oscar and it's going to be so great, you know?
Yeah.
And then
things are happening.
It will be on Netflix in so-called Canada, the so-called United States, the UK, and Ireland starting October 18th. So
that's huge.
I think I might have to buy an Oscars dress.
I think so.
And I think, yeah, like similar to what Michael was saying, it's just like the resiliency and the strength and the power of all these Wet'suwet'en women and all of our ancestors that like made this possible for us to tell this story. It was terrifying for me being my first project. And when I was asked to come on first as a producer and then as a co-director, I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, can I read the description? And nobody told me about all the paperwork. So that's fun. But I think that, you know, just putting it, the immense amount of pressure that there was to get it right. This is a historical document, you know, for my future grandbabies. And I, you know, my nieces and my nephew, like Slato's children, have seen the film. And it was, you know, my niece Lily, who's now 8 years old, after she saw it, she was like, oh, I'm gonna cry. She said, you did such a good job, Beach Jen. I'm so proud of you. And I think that is all the thanks that I need in the world, you know, is that my niece who lived out, like she lives, continues to live out on the YINTAH, and getting that feedback from her. I mean, I'll also take an Oscar, but
but that one's pretty awesome.
And my nephew was like, you know, I think that anyone who didn't know anything about the Wet'suwet'en would have a really good idea. Like they would get it from seeing the film. And that's like so important. And makes me feel satisfied and hopeful. You know, if we can get a story about what we've been through and all the police violence and violence from the state and oppression from the state on Netflix.
That's huge.
People are really starting to like open themselves up and open their eyes to like the truth of Indigenous people in so-called Canada. So yeah,
that's right.
Super, super hopeful and excited.
Thank you for all of your responses. That really like encompasses all of these separate feelings that I had at different points in my life, especially after Standing Rock, and also Mauna Kea. And, you know, Michael, that you're recalling of how you bore witness to people's bravery, especially women and their bravery, and how immovable they are on the front lines is something that I will forever hold to on our stance at Mauna Kea. Brenda, as you know, you spoke of really the more intimate, I guess, terrors of, you know, helicopters and whatnot. I still get jolted back when I hear helicopters. In Hawaii, we're a militaristic state, if you will, and there's helicopters that fly over our house, and sometimes I am jolted back in in our teepee in the snow with helicopters just constantly flying overhead. And then Jennifer, with you saying, sharing what your niece and nephew had said, that's it. You know, when our little ones get it, and then when they see the work that has come out of it and they approve, I think it helps to settle a lot of unsettling feelings that we may still have stirred up from the trauma of being on the front lines. It's such an honor to speak with you folks, and it's really healing for me, I think, because I haven't been able to really talk about this with my community. There weren't a lot of Hawaiians at Standing Rock, but it's been really healing for me to have this conversation with you folks, as short as it was. Jennifer, I know you already shared with the film being on Netflix. You said October 18th in 2 days?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's
so
amazing.
organize watch parties.
Absolutely. Are there other ways that folks may be able to support the healing center, maybe the film? What are ways that we can all help?
Absolutely. There's links to Unastoten, Gitumden Checkpoint, and Liksamasu on the film's website, which is yintahfilm.com. And I think all of the house groups are currently involved in different legal things and reoccupation and building and programming things. For Gitumden, we have ongoing trial. The next trial dates are November 4th to 8th for 3 people. My sister Slato, my partner Corey Jocko, who's Mohawk from Akwesasne, and our younger cousin Jalen Sampson, who's Gitsan, our allied neighbor. And they're all still going to trial for what happened at Coyote Camp. They're currently in an abusive process claim against the RCMP. And so hopefully we will wrap that up by the December date, which is December 9th to 14th. But likely won't get a decision until 2025.
Jeez.
And so there's that ongoing, as well as, continuing to expand and build infrastructure and reoccupy our territory out in Cassia, which is our house group territory. And then for Liksamasu, Denise Zahale was sentenced and did his time of 60 days on house arrest for doing his job, as you saw in the film. And he will be appealing the guilty verdict for that. And I'll let Brenda talk about Unastoten.
Thank you, Jennifer.
So we're still out there and we're still trying to run our program, but we took a drive out yesterday, 2 days, like we did maybe 3 days of driving out there to see. We went to go hunting, my family did, and a lot of the areas that we used to hunt in, they're all blocked up with cement pads and rocks, so we can't really get to any of the spots where we normally go. And I find it really difficult that they've blocked off a lot of our territory, that we can't just go freely like we used to. And it's really disheartening because land-based healing, I think, is the best way to reach our wounded, our hurt people that are out there. But we're still going to go forward and keep doing what we're doing to reach out and help our people that are struggling out there. And there are many, many, many people that are struggling with addictions and just trauma from what you saw in the film, like all the residential school stuff. It's like never ending, but but we're still there and we're still standing strong and trying to move forward best we can.
We're still here.
Yep, we are, and we're not going anywhere.
There, that's right. Thank you, Brenda.
You're muted.
Melina, we can't. Yeah, you're muted.
Oh, there you go. Thanks. Hi. Yeah, I'm popping back in here. I just wanted to say, wow, thank you all so much again for this engaging talk, and for taking the time to connect today. You know, thank you to Jennifer, Brenda, Michael, and Malia for joining us and sharing with us these stories. And thank you for making this film. I have to say, it is really one of my favorite films of the season, and honestly, probably one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. So I am really hoping for this Oscar for you all as well. And also just to be able to, like, you know, share more broadly the story through Netflix is like amazing. It's incredible. So very exciting about that. For viewers out there that are watching this video while we are still doing our HIFF44 Film Festival, we do have a few Neighbor Island screenings that are coming up in the next few weeks as well. And we actually have our last Film for Thought talk happening on Hilo on the Big Island. And that is for our Standing Above the Clouds and the Queen's Flowers titles. So please tell your friends in Ohana to go to HIFF.org to see what will be playing in their area. And yeah, a big thank you again to Liz Soto and to the Hawaii Council for the Humanities for making this Film for Thought programming possible. It's always such a, I mean, I feel it's an integral part of our programming every year, and it just keeps getting better. So thank you all so much again. And yeah, just a big mahalo to you all once again. And I hope we hear more about this story, and I hope it goes even farther than you ever expected. So yeah, thank you all again for sharing all your thoughts and this film with us.
Thank you.
Happy Masai.